How is Ukraine integrating foreign volunteers who do not speak Ukrainian or Russian? How much trouble has the language barrier caused for you and other foreign volunteers?
Yeah, language barrier is a huge issue, to be honest. Like you go out on patrol and obviously you have things to say, like going into the truck because we're getting shelled or something like that, and with just signals you can like express your intentions, but it's a huge issue all the time. And or just for communicating like technical stuff, let's say and that happened many times. Let's say I'm on some places and I see enemy tanks, in any NATO army I would just take the radio and send coordinates like MGRS and blah blah blah. It will be very quick, very effective, and then maybe 1 minute after that would get airstrike or maybe artillery or something, some resources, But now in a few patrols I was like, nobody spoke English, and sometimes in the radio. Sometimes they did speak English, sometimes they did speak English just enough. So I was trying to send coordinates and technical data, And but most of the time I was not able to send such information. So you have a basic example how it matters in war, communication. And communication is a huge issue by itself with the Ukrainian army. So within the army, and even them are admitting it. It's a big problem just to synchronize between units. Let's say units A is moving somewhere, they won't necessarily tell the unit B. So let's say after a few days, maybe we're gonna know that they are there, but let's say after an hour, you won't necessarily know. So you might shoot each other. But this kind of problem reflects into individual. And even between us, the foreign fighters and the Ukrainians, we have huge issue of communication. So yeah, but that's why with the foreign fighters, what they want to do is to, let's say you have 5 army, Western army guys, they'd like to have at least one for a team of 6. But every 5 foreign fighters, they'd like to have one Ukrainian and foreign, speaking translator, so we can communicate, but it's a huge issue. Yeah.
Okay. So my colleague, he met a volunteer who immediately quit because the Ukraine demanded he sign an indefinite contract.
Yeah.
Where he, like a 6-month contract. Were he able to sign a 6-month contract, he would have stayed. Did you also sign an indefinite contract to stay in Ukraine?
Nope. So I don't have any paperwork done, so I'm officially just with a visa. And I'm a guy with a rifle. That's what I am. No paperwork whatsoever, but I think it's better for me. I prefer that way because I would say freer, if I can say that. But it can bring problem because let's say you go to a checkpoint. That happened to me. I went to a checkpoint many times, and then the guys, were just trying to. I was not with the Ukrainian soldier. I was just with Uber driver and another Canadian. And we went to Kiev downtown, and there was this issue with the checkpoint. And the guy told us, "Okay, can you get out of the vehicle?" and blah blah blah. And then they realized, "Oh, are you Wali?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh," and then picture time. So it switched very quickly from, no smiling and weapons and they are ready to do some things or just to arrest me to, oh, okay, picture time. So, but if you don't have paperwork and you don't have any, I would say, brand or some sort, then you're going to have issues. It's not like you're going to get killed, but it's just like you're going to be arrested, verified, and lots of trouble like that. So I don't have any paperwork, so no contract whatsoever. I just came. I think we were the first group of foreign fighters entering Ukraine, I think. I'm not sure, it's not verified. Maybe we should verify this, but I think we were the first. So we entered, and it was like everybody was a bit like surprised. Like Zelensky said, okay, yes, if you have experience, come into the country, help us. But at the basic leadership level, it's like they haven't received instructions how to apply this. It's just, okay, the president said something, but what do I do? Should I sign paper? Should I give them weapon, like nothing, like without any signature? Or what should we do? What kind of weapon? Should we train them? Should we what kind of unit we should put them, right? And so they were confused at first, you know. So that's why one of the reasons I came and there was no paperwork. It's just talking with people, and at first they were not trusting me. So they were just, okay, you Canadian, okay, perfect. And there were some social media about this sniper coming, but most of the time they just were not realizing I was this guy. They were just like, I was just Canadian showing up. And yeah, so eventually I got to talk to people, because how it works is you know people, and then and at that point snipers, they knew I was, you know, this guy called Wali. And then I went and they gave me a rifle, and then went to the front line near Kiev. But it's all about connection, so no paperwork whatsoever. But I think it's there were lots of rumors about this contract being like a prison, you know, and I don't think it's good, you know, because volunteers are free men, you know. They should come to the front line and leave whenever they want. And from what I understand, it works that way. So you can leave whenever you want. But still, the contract is like the duration is many years, but the contracts, from what I understand, is you can leave. But a lot of people, they thought that, okay, if I enter Ukraine, I join this army, I won't be able to leave for maybe, I don't know, 10 years, you know. So just this impression made a very bad image to the Ukrainian recruitment effort. So yeah, I think it wasn't good. They made that contract thing, I think.
Okay. The second part of this same question was, how long do you expect to stay?
I don't know until I've done my duty. I always say that I have 3 duties. So I have duty with my family, I have a duty with my community, and I would say the whole mankind. So I want to do my part with mankind, but at the same time, I'm not leaving behind my family for the rest of my life, right? I have a baby, and his first birthday was when I was going to Kiev. So sad, but at the same time necessary, you know, because modern warfare can be very quick. And at that point, the Russians were pushing very quickly. So we needed to go as fast as possible to the front line, because it was a matter of, you know, days. You know, we had to push people, you know, and perfection of the execution was less important than speed of execution. So I could not wait for the birthday of my son. You know, I had to go right now, like just a few days after the invasion, actually. So yeah, but you can tell with just this example how hard it can be, because I understand why in other wars they send single guys first, the young single guys, and not the married with family, because it's very hard emotionally, and especially for the families. I can tell you that it's like hell, you know. I think my wife is already PTSD. She's like having lots of troubles, and many people and friends, and they some of them are like having nightmares. So it's very curious, because I can sleep hearing the artillery very very close, because I know I'm safe, you know. So I'm not like, it's annoying, but it's not, I can sleep. But they are having nightmares back in Canada, you know, just thinking I might be dead, you know. So for the family, it's very difficult, yeah. So yeah, family-wise.
Okay. Take 5 seconds, verify. Okay, that's good. I want to just side note, if your hand raises to your face, I know it's mannerism, it's reflex. Try not to come too close to the.
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah, right under you. Yeah, it's right.
Is there? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just okay.
Be in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
It's good. Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, man. Okay. What does this conflict mean to you personally as a Quebecois, as a Canadian? Tell us quickly about your heritage.
Yeah. So I'm living in a country that is not exposed to war. Canada is like so far, and Quebec is within Canada. They don't want to go that war, right? So in the family, there's this tradition in Quebec, and in my family, not going to war and not wanting to go to war. My grandmother, you know, I read a lot of history about military situation and stuff, and there was this book about the German generals, and I showed to my grandmother, and my grandmother, she like was alive when there was Second World War, right? And I showed the picture of the German general to my grandmother, and she said, "Oh, these guys made so much trouble." And I said, "Yes, so that's why we it was good to go up there because, you know, Hitler was dangerous. And she said something so funny. She said, yes, he's dangerous. That's why we should not go. You know, it's dangerous, so don't go where it's dangerous, right? It makes sense. But in my family, there was, sorry, there was this guy, I think it was the uncle of my grandmother, I think, something like that. He hid in you know, a school. I say that. Anyway, he hid in a school, and the MPs were looking for him. So I always joking about I have to compensate for this, for these people, for my family not going to war, and now I'm going like every war pretty much that happens. You know, the big wars that happens in my life: Afghanistan, Kurdistan, now Ukraine. So I make a bit of joke about it, but you know what's curious about this war is that when I went to, let's say, Afghanistan and Kurdistan, a lot of people were not agreeing, you know. Many people were not agreeing. A lot of people were agreeing, but lots of critics, and it's good, you know, we are in democracy, but now I feel that pretty much everybody agrees that we have to do something. And even my family says that, okay, it's necessary, you know. My father-in-law this family is like the perfect example of people that would not hurt anybody. They are farmers. They don't like weapons. They just working in the field, working hard, and amazing people. And even then, my father-in-law said, "Okay, I know the solution. We should like put a bullet in the head of Putin." You know, even he is saying such things. He's from Quebec, from Canada. I think it's the place more remote from wars, Quebec. We are surrounded by oceans, like lots of water, and we have the Americans in the south, so nobody would invade such place, you know. It doesn't make sense. So it's like the best place to avoid war, and yet I'm going to every war pretty much. So I come in a place where I should not go at war, and from a place where I cannot go in war if I want to. And yet I'm taking like participating in every war, but that's curious, yeah. Is it good for the?
Of course.
Yeah, you think I'm not touching it too much?
No.
Okay.
It's good. The United States announced that it would be sending a new $800 million arms package, including tens of thousands of artillery rounds and like thousands of howitzers. Do you feel like these armaments and others sent by NATO will be sufficient for Ukraine's defense in the upcoming fight over Donbass?
First of all, you need modern weapons to fight against a modern army. You cannot win just with courage, okay? Just an example. In Irpin, we had a few anti-tank weapons, okay? And anti-aircraft weapons as well, and artillery and so on, right? You cannot fight against a tank just by, yes, you can throw a Molotov cocktail, but it's going to be so costly, human-wise, that you're going to lose so many people. Maybe you're going to succeed, but half of your country is going to be dead, right? So you need modern weapons. You need courage and modern weapons, and how to use them, obviously. But it's absolutely necessary. It's like you cannot win this war without weapons, and now we have some good amount of such weapons. And you know, having such weapons is not only about using them, because the Russians now, they know that we have them. So their tactics are different. So as an example, in Irpin, in the urban terrain, you know, the tanks, very hard to find them. They were hiding. They were like sneaking around between buildings and maybe shooting some places that they can see. But they were not like exposed like in plain sight most of the time, because they knew that we had anti-tank weapons and we were ready to use them. So just having the weapons by itself helps, you know, changing the way this war is fought, you know. And at some point we were in some house in an apartment in Irpin, and there was this helicopter, Russian helicopter. You can hear them like approaching, and we moved and we took a few buildings, and they thought we were in some other buildings, and they were shooting at these buildings, and we were not there. So we found a bottle of rum. We just took a shooter, you know, a shot, you know, just looking and laughing about the helicopter shooting in some useless place, you know. And they could not detect us because they were afraid. You can tell that the Russian helicopters, they were just moving pretty much in the outskirts of the city. Like they were like afraid of being shot because they know that in this place we had some anti-aircraft missiles, right? So they were very careful. So because of that, their equipment were not like good. You know, they were far. You know, so they could not confirm that we were there. They just see remote buildings. So they were just throwing rockets in these places and big fires. And but you know, just having the weapons, that can be enough at some point. It helps, but at the same time, it does kill, you know, Russian people because these missiles are so effective. Just the Javelin, it's 2.5 kilometers. It's a 1 hour course, and you are still able to use this system. It's not like you can take it in 5 seconds, know how it works. It's not like RPG, which is a 30 seconds course, I would say, but. With this kind of weapon, the Javelin, maybe after an hour course, you can use them and basically shoot like a complex weapon system called a tank, like kilometers away. So we need these weapons, absolutely. But at the same time, these weapons it's not like you just throw weapons and magically everything's going to be working, okay? Just an example, we have, in some village, we had issues because we had so many missiles, Javelin missiles, but just two controllers. The controllers is the thing that you connect to the missiles, you know. So let's say you shoot a missile, then you throw away the empty tubes of the missile that is holding the missile, then you put it in the missiles. The problem is that these controllers just have one batteries, non-rechargeable. And it's military, it's like a big box, you know, these batteries. We had one batteries for the entire village because the other one was expended, you know. No, yeah. So, one battery, one Javelin controller, a few missiles against dozens of Russian tanks. So sometimes the issue is not having just the missiles, it's having everything around these things like extra batteries, training station, because the Javelin, they have training station. So now to train Ukrainians, I had to go online on YouTube because we had starting at that location and show them how it looks. You know, the signals and the messages and everything, and I had to show them, okay, you press this, and then I will show them YouTube video of games, realistic game. Okay, it's gonna be like this, you know, you're gonna see this blinking and blah blah blah, and we should not do it that way, right? We should have the training station because the Javelin has a training station, but we cannot find it. So we might think at first that sending weapons is something simple. But war is something complicated. It's technical, you know. It's very human, and you know, when I entered Ukraine, there was already this social media publication about me being the best sniper and whatever, right? Best sniper in the world, and yet I was looking for a sniper rifle. I had no weapon, and yet officially on social media, everybody was saying I was one of the best sniper ever, and yet this sniper in Ukraine had no weapon, okay? Because I could not have the paperwork for the weapon. So I was asking officers, and they were so careful not to, you know, get into trouble, you know, especially in Lviv because they're far remote from the front, so it's more bureaucratic, I would say. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna ask my commander, and then you wait, and then nothing happens, you know. So you might think that sending weapons to a country at war is simple, but there's so many human things and, you know, complication and so on that it's not that simple. But we still need to throw as much weapon as we can. Is it good? Yeah, I think interesting. Yeah.
No, very, very. Yeah, it is.
I'm just throwing ideas.
I feel like you're speaking your mind. You have.
Yeah. It's no preparation.
No
I just.
Yeah. Good. My eyes keep going on that thing in the back. Don't touch it. No.
No, it's
kind of crooked.
No,
was it like
that? No, it's slanting. I'm gonna add a little bit more tape. Really.
That's why I didn't want to use it at all.
Slanting. I hope it's not a sign.
It might. You're gonna notice.
I'm gonna fix it. No one's
exactly why I didn't want to use it.
No one's gonna notice, man. No one will notice.
Perfectionists will notice. The cameraman will notice.
They're gonna focus. They're gonna be focused on Wali, not.
That's slanting, right? I wouldn't notice it.
You would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live in a house which was slanting, so now I see everything that is just not perfectly angled. I see it. I'm throwing IDs, but you can like do the cutting after. So the most.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so my next question is.
I'd like to talk about the how modern warfare is, because a lot of people, they don't realize how it is. And can we talk about it? Just in general.
How is modern warfare?
Modern warfare, yes. So I would describe modern warfare as a terrible disappointment. We had a village, I think 2 weeks ago, and there were these, I think 1 or 2 Americans and from other countries as well, and they went to an outpost, and they received a shell from the, not too far, not too close, from the Russians, the big shells and the artillery shells, and then they went like, they said, okay, we're going out, we don't want this anymore. So these guys didn't see any Russians, and yet they were almost killed by the Russians. But that's typical of modern warfare. Terrible disappointment. You think you're gonna go into some glorious war, you're gonna make an assault, like you're gonna like be in a game, and then you're gonna shoot people, and then you're gonna conquer back a territory. But in fact, for most people, modern warfare is you're gonna dig a trench, you're gonna wait cold, miserable, it's gonna be rainy, you're gonna do nothing except waiting, and then you're gonna get bored, you're gonna go out smoking, and then you're gonna get killed by somebody who you don't even see, by some remote weapon system, And that situation, I'm telling you, happened a week ago to me, right? So I was going into an OP, and this OP, that trench, was surrounded by tanks, And I went there, and with my colleague, his nickname Shadow, is Canadian. So we went there, and we were on a mission to know where the tanks were in the region. And I told my friend, okay, go into the trench, It was the size of a bed, I would say. So I told my friend, okay, I told Shadow, go into the trench. I know it's boring, but that's war. You need to protect yourself. 75% of the job is not to do assault and shoot at infantry, just to protect yourself. Because at the end of the day, you need to hold Ukraine. And take a country, you need to send infantry. But sending infantry against infantry is very costly, So you need, sounds simple, but to conquer a country, you need to kill as much enemy infantry as possible remotely. So when you're ready to send your infantry, they don't have any, they don't have any more infantry, right? So it's less costly to take this country. So most of in modern warfare, including First World War, Second World War, most of the soldiers, they get killed by remote systems like artillery, airplanes, and such things. And it's the same here, except that the weapons are even more effective. So during Second World War, the tanks could shoot a few 100 meters, maybe more for some system, depend, but most of the time it was not that far. Now they can see humans kilometers away. So yeah, going back to the story. So we are in this trench. I tell my colleague Shadow, okay, go into the trench because it's so dangerous. Stay there as protection. And I know it's boring, but it's necessary. And he listened to me. So he went into with his rifle and just waited. And then the 2 Ukrainian soldiers, they were new soldiers. They came out of the trench. We were like in a small wood, And I told these 2 Ukrainians, okay, get back into the trench. Modern warfare, how it works is if you have nothing to gain from exposing yourself, you should hide and protect yourself. Simple, very simple. You don't have to be smart to do it, but you still have to do it. So I told them, go back into the trench. They would not listen. So they went out of the trench. We were in small woods, so still covered in, some protection, but it's not very good, So they went out, start smoking. So they were like, okay, it's cold, and it was in the morning. The thing is, in the morning, everything had cooled down, because the tanks, they have thermal equipment, and in the morning, it's very easy for them to spot humans. Because, after sunset, let's say, you have rocks, you have different type of dirt, and so the car has like a little patch of, each spot, I would say. So it maybe might look like sometime for modern equipment, like humans, maybe. So it's harder to spot humans, But in the morning, it's more easy it's easier to spot humans because they are like spots, in a way, hot spots. So I told them, okay, don't do that. Go back into the trench. And then they start talking about the tanks and so on. And they went close to the edge of the wood. No, not at the very edge, but close. And I said, okay, don't do that. Come back. That's very dangerous what you're doing. And I had this impression of, okay, basic soldiering, you don't have to be smart, but you still have to do it. You should not bunch yourself with other soldiers, in modern warfare, because it brings danger, okay? We humans tend to feel safe when we are grouped, okay? It's human, I guess, but in modern warfare, you should not do that. In Kurdistan, I saw many Peshmerga being shot that way. They were grouped, talking, and then machine gun. And, so what happened is that I just told myself, okay, I should go away from them and hide, not like walking, like standing and by the end. So I took all my camouflage sniper stuff and even camouflage, I had this camouflage already. So I moved 15 meters away, I would say. And maybe 20 seconds after I told them to come back, like a huge explosion, like my ears, I could not hear on this side, it was like a big push, very violent. And I saw all the smokes because I had my binocular like this, and I saw all the smokes, and it smelled like it's hard to describe, but you smell death. It's like death is there. Okay, it's hard to describe, but I saw the shrapnel. They're like lasers, like going in front of me. Right away, I knew, okay, that's not good. So violent. And then I went back because my brain already registered that there was this path in the wood I could go. Protect, covered, So I went to this little path, went back to the trench, and a trench is like a hole, but you have a small mound of dirt around them. So my equipment was there already. So I went back to the trench, and my friend Shadow was like shaking as hell. He's like, "What the fuck?" And he was right there. He was very close from the explosion. I looked to the left, and maybe 5 meters from me, I saw one Ukrainian soldier his legs were destroyed, like crushed, and he was all like, the body was fucked, that was over for him. He was dead, not moving, and I knew at that point it was useless to help him because I saw many such situations in other wars, and he looked like nothing to do. Anyway, it was too dangerous to get to him because it was still in the sight of the tank, right? It was a tank that shot us, obviously. He was so perfect, so quick, so snipers-like, so very perfect shot. Anyway, so I could not go there, okay? And the explosion removed many branches. There were branches on the ground, and I could not go there because there was like a tunnel, I would say, of visibility, so the tank could see even more, That was over. And then I look, a few seconds after that, I look, and there was this other Ukrainian, the older one, and he was, maybe 2 or 3 meters from me. And one leg was chopped, like you can see all the flesh and the blood, and the rest of the body was in very bad state. And he had his eyes closed, but he was like all crisp, like in very huge pain. But still, I think he wasn't maybe fully conscious at that point, but he has his eyes closed, and he was still breathing, and you can tell he was so shaken. It's like 1,000 people just hit him at the same time, and then he collapsed, like his last breath. Like I look at, it was like a perfect movie scene. You look at the movie with the flash and explosion. It was like perfectly. It was like it was perfectly staged. Like the flash, all the body was in place. That's how modern warfare works. You go out of the trench, you smoke. You're careless, and then you get killed instantly. That's how it works. You don't see a glorious assault on your position and so on, right? That's just one example, because when we came back from this patrol, other things happened after this patrol, but it wasn't over. But 30 minutes after we came back, 2 other guys got killed a few meters away. This same kind of situation. Carelessness, That's our experience. I know a good Ukrainian soldier which are experienced, and we don't have that many losses. In Irpin, we went to a place, and because we had to take some ground, because the unit before us, the other unit, lost 40 guys because of artillery, you know, in one night. Okay, that was lots of casualties. But ours, we didn't suffer any loss. In my group in Irpin, we just had one wounded by shooting, you know. Actually, the first patrol I did in Irpin was that situation. But other than that, we had lots of close calls, but we still were not so many casualties. But when you don't have experience, you see the difference, because in the past weeks, I think the past 10, I would say 2 weeks, in the place I was mixed with experienced soldier and new soldier, and the new soldier got 6 dead guys, you know, just in a few days. It's like every day there would be like guys dying. But we were not too many. We were just a small village. So at some point they start to get nervous for some reason. But anyway, that's how modern warfare works. You're just sitting somewhere. You're bored. Nothing happens. Oh, everybody told me I would get killed instantly, and nothing happens. Huh? It's so boring here. Oh, let's go out of the trench and smoke and chat about the tanks and blah blah blah. And blink, and you're not there anymore. That's how modern warfare works.
Yeah. It's a quick technical verification. It's good. It's not slanting. It's very interesting, man.
Mm.
What sort of equipment, you commented on this a bit, but you can articulate a lot more here. What sort of equipment are you personally using as a sniper? Were you trained on this weapon system or similar platform in the Canadian Armed Forces?
Yeah. First of all, if I had all the equipment, communication and so on that I had in Afghanistan, it would be a slaughter of Russians. Okay, I would just basically stay in some woods, some house. Or I would just like take my sniper rifle, put it in a corner, just take my binos with the rangefinder and GPS and such. I would just like, oh, Russian, tuk. I press a button, I look at the coordinates, I send data to other team by the radio, and I take so many of them, I don't shoot them at once. And then I start making fire mission with artillery, airplanes, helicopters. I ask for the synchronization with the helicopters, let's say. And then all at once, I would, like, a big like wall of fire would go on Russians, and it would be like hundreds of casualties. Okay, it would be perfect. The problem is modern warfare is not just about a soldier killing other soldiers, it's teamwork. A lot of the casualties are made by artillery. So for that we need communication, we need radio, we need trained groups, you know, we have to have procedures, you know. Artillery is very technical. You cannot just talk to somebody remotely on Messenger and say, hey, can you please send artillery? Where? Okay, can you, let's say because some teams in Ukraine, they were using some kind of coordinates, you know, and some other team were using other types of coordinates. So they have many, and this is just one example, because we have so many technical problems like that, you know, procedures, no procedures, sometimes half procedures, language barriers. So the thing is, the difference is mostly that here it's difficult to have this modern warfare type of teamwork. It's very difficult. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I'm pretty much half a sniper here, because a sniper, what happens is that you need a sniper team, because you need a spotter, and the spotter can tell you, okay, you missed, or can you correct, and blah, blah, blah. I cannot do that here because I don't have any trained sniper with me, you know. So I'm basically shooting, but I have to do my own corrections, you know. But I cannot see all the corrections because the recoil. That's just an example. Another example, they want me some civilian. Actually, he was a civilian commander in some village. They want me to send me and my other colleague, nicknamed Shadow. They want me to go to an OP, which was surrounded by tanks, and they somehow magically thought that if you send a sniper somewhere, it's gonna be like, they wanted me to send for many days, you know. And I told them I don't have the night equipment. You know, I cannot do anything. I'm just a target there waiting in the trench, you know. And I cannot go in other mission. I'm gonna be more tired. So it's not good to be tired for nothing, for no reason. So I had no thermal equipment to spot the Russian tanks. I had no Or I add the basic one, like you can buy in some shops, you know, so against tanks with huge thermal equipment. And no spotting scope, you know. So let's say you see a house, you see somebody in a house with the binos. It's not enough. You need the spotting scope, which is basically a telescope, and you look and you identify exactly what's going on, you know. Because let's say it can be a refugee. It can be a refugee looking at the window because there was an explosion. You're just curious since you go out. It could be a Russians. So let's say you see a shape. That happens often. You see somebody in the house. You detect them with the binos, but you don't have the eye power, so you cannot be sure. So you have to take a decision: should I shoot, or should I not shoot? You know, and maybe you're gonna kill a civilian, right? So being experienced is about not knowing when not to shoot. Sometimes, many situations I had to decide not to shoot. I can give you more example after, but equipment wise is yeah. So I liked pretty much half of the equipment of the sniper team. So no communications, so I cannot like send artillery, airstrikes and such. No thermal visions. No night equipment, no rangefinder. So it's just technical, but it matters. It makes a difference. Let's say you have a target at 600 meters. You have the rangefinder. The difference, you know, the ball drops. You know, it's like you're playing golf. You know, let's say you think it's 650 meters because you guess with the angles, and that's technical, but anyway, let's say you think it's 650 meters, 650 meters, but actually it's 750 meters. But the bullet drops so much that you might, most likely you're gonna miss the target. It's not because you're a bad sniper, it's not because at this distance you cannot guess easily. And the bullet drops so quickly. But if you have a rangefinder, easy. You know 750, it's like that type of settings, and you won't miss. So you're gonna hit your target because you have a rangefinder, you know. So you see how it's not just about being a sniper with a rifle and a scope. It's about like you need all the equipment around the sniper, and you also need training. People think you just give me a weapon and magically in the next day I'm gonna kill 50 Russians instantly. It doesn't work that way. I have to train with the rifle. It's like you have the best car driver in the world, and you tell them, okay, I'm going to give you a random car and you're going to win that race tomorrow. No, he needs to train with this car, right? If he's good, he's going to know that car very quickly. Yes, but still he needs to try it a bit, you know. You should not throw him, this guy, on the race and he's going to learn while driving his race, right? But that's a situation I had to deal with here. But it's war, you know, you have to adjust and make the best we can. But the only training I had was for zeroing my rifle, because it wasn't adjusted, you know. Because if you put a scope on the rifle, it's not shooting when you're aiming, right? You have to adjust it. You have to go to a range. You have to make this kind of, you know, we call it zero, okay? You have to do the ballistic charts. We call it the firing table. So let's say from this distance you shoot that way. If you have this kind of wind, you shoot that way. You should train, you know. If you don't train, then you're not gonna know your weapon, because one type of sniper rifle might be different from the other type of sniper rifle. Or let's say you give me some kind of ammunition. This ammunition might be different from another kind of ammunition, just enough so I miss the target at, let's say, 100 meters. So you just giving me a rifle, not zeroed, and a bunch of ammunition, mixed ammunition. I'm gonna miss my target, because it's like having cars with bad fuel, and you know, so I cannot win that race. Or I'm going to go fast, but not as fast as I can. I'm going to be half of my potential. So you need equipment, and you need how to use it, and you need support, you know. So, but the problem is that here all the good equipments, because the sniper team, they do have spotting scope, they do have rangefinder, but all the good equipment was already, you know, in Kyiv, especially the good equipment is already in use. So you cannot just stay out of the front line. So you have to go to the front line. Let's say you want this equipment. You go to the front line, you have to tell these guys using this equipment, okay, I'm going to take your rangefinder for me, and you won't have any rangefinder. Not a good situation, right? So you're basically left out without many good things like the rangefinder and spotting scopes and thermal vision and such. So yeah, equipment is an issue. Even for sniper, you need many types of equipment, but unfortunately, up to that point, I was not able to have everything I needed.
Okay. Side note, you can get...
Is it clear, that the explanation about is it?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's very...
Because sometimes it can get very technical quickly.
I wanted to say that you can get very technical. You can like say the model, you can say all the intricate numbers and everything that civilians wouldn't understand.
A
You
lot of
can't say.
people like that.
Huh?
A lot of people find that specifics very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I can...
You can get super military if you want. Like,
Okay.
all the little details.
Okay, okay.
I mean, almost out of questions. I should have said that in the beginning. So what's that? And related to this question, compare your experience fighting as a volunteer with Ukraine with your experience in the Canadian Armed Forces at the level of tactics and equipment.
Yeah. Well, maybe not about just equipment, but just about the general experience, okay? If you fight within the normal army, let's say you're a soldier and fighting for the, I don't know, Canadian forces or American army, and you go to Afghanistan, let's say, you don't even have to know where Afghanistan is on the map. You basically go into a plane, they tell you, okay, that's your equipment, that's your rifle. You land there, they bring you to some kind of fob, a base, and then you don't even have to know where you are, and you just do your job. You don't have to understand all the context, the political and the language. But when you are volunteers, you have to do basically everything that an army does for you by yourself. So you have to deal with how you cross the border, because when you are in the army, they do it for yourself. You just land somewhere and magically you're good to go, okay? Admin-wise. When you're a volunteer, it doesn't work that way. You have to understand how the visa works. Because you're a civilian, you cannot bring military equipment. So let's say you have this perfect rifle of yours. You cannot bring it because you don't have the permit, you know? Or you cannot just buy a machine gun in Canada and bring it, train in Canada with infinite budget and take the plane with your machine gun, enter, have the visa with your machine gun. You cannot do that, right? So all these kind of things that we take for granted when you are in the army, they're not there when you are volunteers. So you have to basically patch things up. You have to understand how the visa works. How are you going to travel with less weight? So should I bring my helmet? Should I take one helmet that is there already? You have to think these kind of things. You have to think like which unit I'm going to join. How are you going to join them? Because if you're not like regular army, you have no transport. How I'm going to go there? There are refugees. How I'm going to contact somebody. But you know, anything that sounds simple in the normal army, logistic-wise, it can be very complicated when you are volunteers. That's the main thing. And also, you don't have, let's say, insurance. Let's say you die as a soldier, American official soldier in Afghanistan. Your family is going to have lots of money and many other things, support and stuff like that, right? If you are volunteers, and let's say 2 weeks ago, let's say I get killed like today, or just injured. I don't have any compensation. You know, I go back and let's say I lose an arm or a leg or something, or I cannot, like, because I'm a coder, let's say I lose an arm. So I have to code for the rest of my life with one hand, you know, no compensation, you know. If you are in a regular army, you have compensation, program, and so on. If I have this situation here, I have no help, you know. That's it. So I have to go back and one hand for the rest of my life, you know. What else? The family doesn't have support, so you're basically going away like you would go on vacation if you are volunteers. But in the army, they have more support, so they have teams, you know, full-time people helping the families and such. Yeah, these kind of things. So there are lots of difference. It's harder to be a volunteer, and you're not paid. That's another thing. So I'm not paid now. I don't have any money in my account, so I don't receive a single dollars from the Ukrainians. They pay for the food. So once you're in country, you have free food. Obviously, they try, you know, you're like in the army. like them. So you have the same food, you have the same, you see at places, so you're not paying for staying in hotel, let's say, unless you want to rest. But most of the time you don't spend too much money. But yeah, but still you're not making money. So if you have a house to pay for, I have a child, so it's a good thing I have good money, but I have enough money. But some people, they cannot join as a volunteer because they don't have any leverage, you know, they just like, they have to pay their bills every month, and if they don't work, that's the problem. So we have to prepare financially, you have to have enough money. And you have to ask yourself, okay, I have retirement, I have family to support, I want to spend money just for myself, for fun, I want to buy this new car. And when you are a volunteer, you have to sacrifice many things, you know, financially. You know, oh, I'm going to lose many months of income. Actually, I'm going to spend because I'm going to pay for the flight, I'm going to pay for maybe a rest in a hotel or something, food sometime, but essentially you're going to lose money, risking your life. And if something happens, you won't have anything, you know, except people like thanking you, which is still good, but, you know, it kind of sucks if you lose a arm and you, for the rest of your life, and you have nothing, right? Yeah, so you see just with this example how different it can be from joining in the regular army and being a volunteer.
May I ask a question, Sean?
I just have two more questions.
Okay. I was just curious how your experience volunteering in Ukraine compared to your experience volunteering with the Peshmerga.
I can talk about it.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So you want to ask the question again, or?
So, what is? Can you compare your experiences between volunteering with Ukraine and volunteering with the Peshmerga?
Yeah. The main difference is firepower. You know, ISIS, they capture lots of tanks, modern equipment, but because of the air presence of NATO allies, you know, they could not like use, let's say, artillery a lot, they could not use tanks a lot. They could a bit, but not too much. But here they have so many firepower. Like when I was in Irpin, they were shooting like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shellings on our place, you know. Constantly, so they have so much firepower. I was in Irpin, and I remember there was this woods, and I was outside the building, and there was artillery falling, not too far, not too close, 400 meters, I would say. So it's still close enough to feel it, but not very, still a bit in a distance. And I was looking in between the trees, and there was this amazing sunset, you know, very beautiful. And then I realized, oh, I'm not looking at the sunset; it's fire. It's the city burning, and at the same time, it looked like a beautiful sunset. So you can tell with just the firepower that they were destroying the whole cities. So the main difference is the firepower that the Russians have, and they have amazing equipment, like these guys that got killed by tanks from a distance, because with modern equipment you can target very accurately from a distance. ISIS didn't have that, so they had lots of IDs. They could put mines everywhere. They had armored vehicle that they were pushing with armored vehicle with you know, exploding himself. And it was very bad situations, but still it wasn't the level of technology and firepower that the Russians have. But still, the Russians are stopped. That's good news, because they're not as good as we thought they would be. So they're strong, but they're not as strong, you know. So that's the good news. Yeah. Maybe I can talk more about it, but there's so many things I can talk about. We can talk for hours about the difference.
I want to say, what happened when you found out you were dead?
So I pretty much was the last person to learn about my own death. I think I died a few times. I think I died last week also. I'm not sure, but some people told me like, oh, I saw like people telling that you were dead, but every time I make some public statement or something, and then it's ridiculous. But yeah, I learned my own death. I think it's kind of ridiculous because it's like so an obvious lies. It's so easy. I think it's the most easily fact-check fake news you can have, right? You say somebody died, and then that person didn't die, it's very easy to prove, you know. But still, some people, they still think I'm part of some plot that I'm actually dead. It's pre-recorded. Some people, they think I'm pre-recorded, and then they send me a message that I know it's all fake and blah blah blah. I say, yeah, I'm dead. I'm sorry, and just pre-recorded message to you. But some people, they still believe I'm still dead. And it's all propaganda. Yep. But you know, there was this propaganda thing saying I was dead in Mariupol, but I never seen Mariupol in my entire life. You know, I never went there. It's like you know people, they know about Mariupol the same as I do. You know, so I don't understand why they're doing such obvious lies, because it can be verified very easily by any people being critic. You know, but that's the way they do it, and you know. Knowing how the Russians are now, it makes sense, because they don't have any, I would say, subtlety, I would say, finesse. They're like brutal. They're not like sophisticated. Yes, they're not like, okay, we're gonna target this specific building with some precise airstrike. You know, they're like, okay, how the Russians think is like, we think that they are in this building, so let's destroy the whole neighborhood. You know. And this kind of, I would say, way of doing things, it reflects into their propaganda. So they're not trying to be like sophisticated. You're just like, oh, we're gonna say something, you know, propaganda. We're just gonna say he's dead. So there's no sophistication. They're not sophisticated. A good propaganda would have been, let's say, okay, Wali is shooting civilians. So what surprises me is that the Russians are not sophisticated with their propaganda. You know, they're trying to basically say such obvious lies, like I'm dead. That it's surprising how it is not sophisticated. A more subtle approach would have been to say, let's say, okay, Wally is doing war crimes. He's a sniper because he wants to kill, and he's just like laying in windows, and he's shooting in some pro-Russian place because he doesn't like Russians, so he's shooting pro-Russian people, let's say. That would have been perfect, because how can I say it's not true? I couldn't do anything at the front. I could shoot people, and nobody would know. You know, I could just, well, there's somebody, let's just shoot that person. So that would have been very sophisticated and very good propaganda. But no, they don't do such things. You know, they just say things like, "Oh, he's dead," even though I'm not dead, in a place I was not even present. You know. So I think it reflects, you know, the way they are doing this war is so amateur, you know, they amateur-like. They have lots of guns, lots of firepower, but they're not using everything in sophisticated way, you know, and it reflects into the way they're doing propaganda and the way they're doing the normal fight, you know.
So my final question is, I read your blog, and are you writing a book?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna write a book because I like it. A lot of people they don't like me writing books for some reasons. It's like now it's getting wrong writing books, but anyway, yeah. So I wrote the first book about my experience in Afghanistan. It's called Mission Sniper. By the way, you can find it Amazon and my website. It's called wallysbooks.com. I have all the links. It's a bit of a mess now, as I have so many links everywhere. But anyway, I'm gonna fix it at some point. But yeah, so I think I'm going to write a book this time, and it's going to be a different book, because I want this book to be a weapon. You know, I want this book because most likely this war it's not going to be like finished quickly. So maybe I can write a book how to beat the Russians, you know, with the advices, and maybe I can translate it. I have this idea of having this book translated in Ukrainian. And in Ukraine, all the profits will go to support, you know, Ukraine. You know, that I would love to do that, so the Ukrainian officers, soldiers, and everybody can read them, being a moral booster at the same time as having advices. Because the good thing is that I come from NATO background, you know, and I have experiences in many wars, so I know the strengths and the weaknesses of the Russians. I know the strength and the weaknesses of the Ukrainian, so I can give advices and just my advice. I'm not like the perfect soldier, but I still have some knowledge, and maybe that's something I'm going to do. A weapon, a book that is a weapon at the same time.
Okay. Well, can I say this is very interesting listening to you, and thanks for
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
time for
it
this.
was a pleasure.
Pull up your
And,
website.
Huh?
I pulled up the bookstore. I think I'll probably read some of them.
For the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not sure which one I'll start with. Do you have any recommendation?
For?
A book that you wrote. 'Cause
Mission Sniper.
Well,
But
so
half of it.
And you have documentaries too.
Yeah, but the link is broken now. I cannot fix it right now. But I'm gonna fix it after.
One more,
It's a big mess. But I don't have time and
Sorry,
all.
let's finish this real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I have one more question that I had shown you yesterday. And to wrap up the whole interview, I would like you to explain what you see the future of this war
Mhm.
being like. When is it going to end?
Yeah.
How will it play out?
Okay. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that this war is gonna be like First World War, a bit. Okay, a mix of first and second. So the First World War, if you remember, 100 years ago, about pretty much, and the German invaded northeastern France. So they took Belgium and Holland and northeastern France, and it was very quick at first, just I think a month and a half or something. So it was very dynamic at first, and then there was this stalemate and this front line not moving, and I think it's going to be the same for Ukraine. So the Russians, they took grounds because there was no defense at first, because the defense were not at the border. So they took lands. There were some fightings, Kiev and so on, but then I think it's going to be a stalemate. And there's going to be like fortification, barbed wires and trenches, like a big Donbass war. So Donbass was a static war, with trenches and stuff. But I think now it's just going to be expanded. So there's going to be a long defensive line between the two. And the Russians will just hold the ground because it's hard to push them back still. They're not as strong as we would thought, but they're still strong. You have to recognize that, right? So we won't be able to push them very quickly. And so both sides going to try, especially in the winter, they're going to try to push each other with battles. Pretty much like First World War. First World War, there was this La Somme, Verdun, big battles. Now the casualties will be less because they don't have this manpower. They cannot lose 500,000 soldiers just with one battles. But it's going to be a bit like that. So static, defensive like First World War, and then some battle trying to do something. But because the generals of the Russians and some of the leadership of Ukrainian army are very still Soviet style era, so it's slow to build momentum to make a battle. So it's slow to organize, it's slow to plan. So I think the battle won't have any big outcome. There's going to be a little push, and then you're going to see a small difference on the map, and that's it. And then other side's going to try something. I think it's going to be like that. But now there's so much mud, it makes a difference. Mud now it's the same for tank as the weather is for airplanes. Mud makes a huge difference here. It makes a difference. You have to plan accordingly to when it's going to rain, how the mud's going to be, and the Russians, they cannot push all around the village, because of the mud. You can send tanks, track vehicles around the village, and take a village around it, But they have to take the village because they need the road. If they don't have the road, they won't be able to use all the logistic, all the trucks, wheeled trucks, and so on. And an army is so complicated; it needs so much logistic that you need roads, you need wheeled vehicle, lots of them. So I think because of this, the mud and the leaves in the tree, it's more easily defended. You can defend a place more easily when you have the leaves in the tree. Now the leaves are coming out because spring is coming. So now the Russians will be blocked. They won't move, I think. And there's going to be this huge front line, First World War. They're going to hold the ground that they took, and then there's going to be a few battles here and there sometimes. And next winter, I think there's going to be a big battle again, like we had this year. And I think it's going to be most likely launched by the Russians. That's what I think. But I think it won't last many years. I think it's gonna be like Putin's gonna like be thrown out of power, because now it's more popular in Russia. Yes, the Poles are, you know, controlled in a way. You know, a lot of people, they don't answer to the Poles, you know, in Russia. But still, I think it's still kind of popular in Russia. You know, a lot of people are like not doing anything with politics because they're afraid, but a lot of people, they support Putin, you know. Still, we have to acknowledge that. Every time he took some ground from Ukraine, he was more popular. So by the years, you can tell, okay, every time he took ground, he was more popular. But there was one time he was less popular. It was 2008 financial crisis. So when the people suffer, when the people lose money, that's when the politicians are in trouble. Their sanctions going to be like worse than 2008, I think. And it's going to kick in. Like a lot of people, they're like in denial in Russia. They think, oh, we don't have Microsoft. We're going to build our own Microsoft and it's going to make a job boom or something. No, it won't. Okay? It's going to be suffocated, right? Russia's going to suffocate, you know, and no trade and lots of strategic components. They won't have it. The computer will be more expensive. That means less people being able to study in IT, let's say. Less knowledge, less wealth, and it's going to kick in, you know, in the coming months and years. And then maybe Putin will be less popular, especially if he has trouble in Ukraine. Let's say he doesn't take any more ground. There are many losses. Already they have such many losses. He loses money because money costs a lot of money. War costs a lot of money. And then on top of that, the people start having financial issues, you know, with the sanctions. I think something's going to happen, and some morning there's going to be a coup or, you know, something, you know, maybe in 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, I don't know, something like that. I think it's going to end that way. And then there's going to be negotiation. It's not like the whole Russian front's going to collapse. It's going to be like, there's going to be a stalemate because of a coup with Putin or something. Then the general would just hold the ground. There's going to be negotiations. And I think depends of the new power, but then there's going to be some peace. And I think the peace should be realistic, you know. A peace that everybody hates is a good peace, I would say. If the peace is liked by just one side, it's a seed for the next war. You know, First World War, after the war, the Germans were not happy about the peace and so on, and it was the seed for the Second World War with Hitler and so on. And I think that now we need a realistic peace. So that means maybe, I'm not telling the Ukraine what to do, but I think maybe they should leave Crimea. I know it was taken by force, maybe Donbass, but take the rest and just fortify Ukraine, you know, and so it cannot be taken again, you know. I think we need such realistic peace, and I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So nickname Wali, Oliver, my first name. So I'm in Ypres right now. I think we are, which dates? 23rd of April,
Yes.
2022. So yeah.